On this week's episode, we tour a location that does live multicam shoots for broadcast television. DVTV starts right now.
This episode is made possible in part by JAG 35 Affordable Solutions for Filmmakers, Rig Wheels, camera wheels for creativity, CheesyCam.com, the latest gear reviews and DIY video and photo projects, Manhattan LCD, the affordable solution for high-definition monitoring.
Hey guys, welcome to another brand new episode of DVTV, bringing you the next wave of digital video. I'm your host, Tony Reale, and today we're going to be talking about multi-camera shoots. Now, chances are, if you've done any level of filmmaking or video production, you're probably used to shooting with one, maybe two cameras if you're lucky. And for that, if you needed multiple angles, you traditionally said cut, change the camera angle, and would continue on. But for live events like sporting events and concerts and so on, multi-cameras are necessary to capture that full live event from multiple angles. And churches are another great example. Here we're at Celebration Church in Green Bay, and I'm joined with Tim Ray, the technical director at Celebration. And Tim, we're going to ask you about multi-camera shoots. Now, again, for most filmmakers, even regular video producers, they can get by with just a single camera for most of their needs. But when it comes to a multi-camera shoot for a live event, there's a lot more that happens. There's a lot more crew. There's a lot more equipment that are needed.
Well, that's right, Tony. First of all, there's a lot more crew. We have 4 cameras here at the church, so obviously each camera is going to need somebody to run it. And then back in the control room, we have 3 different positions that are typically back there. We have a director, an engineer, and a switcher. So we want to take a look back there and see what we got?
Yeah, let's check it out.
All right, so this is our production room here. And let's first start off by looking at the switcher.
All right.
This particular switcher, the output comes out to a screen here, which is a multi-view display. So we can see each of our 4 cameras here. And then we have an option of 4 additional inputs at the bottom. What happens is, right now it's on black, so come up off black, comes up here. This is what actually is going to your tape, your screen, or whatever your final media is that you're putting out to. And then as we look at the switcher here, you can switch what camera is going up, where it's going, so on and so forth.
And then if somebody wanted to do a live dissolve, you can do that right on the board?
Correct. So, you'd select, let's say, between these 2 cameras. You just dissolve it there and away you go. So the director would be standing here calling out the shots, saying which camera to take, which camera to dissolve to, and then there would be another individual here at the switcher following those commands.
Now, how does the camera functions get control, like the f-stop and stuff like that?
Well, if you look over here, this is our engineering area. We have 4 different engineering consoles here. So just by turning these knobs, we can adjust the irises. And we have a little selector switcher here, so I can take to camera 2, camera 3. It pops up on the screen here. We have a waveform monitor that's built into this display. So, okay, what are we on here? We're at camera 3. So if I adjust the f-stop of camera 3, you can see it grow darker and brighter as I turn it. You can also adjust color and gain and everything else from this control.
So traditionally, what makes this different than like a traditional video camera is instead of controlling all that yourself, you have somebody that's specifically doing that, and the camera operators aren't even focusing on that at all.
Correct.
Now, and these are things that you also do during the shoot, I'm guessing. If the lighting changes or whatever, you can change those manually.
Particularly in the church setting, you're going from song to song, and then you're going from song to preaching. So there's a lot of light changes that happen. So the person that's doing this particular task will have to pay a lot of attention to what's going on to make sure the light levels are where they need to be.
Now, Tim, let's talk about acquisition. Obviously, everything has to be edited in the end, even though you're doing a multicam shoot in the first place. And I know that you guys use both tape for acquisition as a legacy format because you have so many tapes, and for archiving purposes too. But for higher end edits and for sending out to HD content, you do solid state. So tell us about those 2 different workflows.
Correct. Okay. All our cameras are HD. So we obviously go into an HD format, but we'll get to that in a second. Our tape media here, we have a DVC Pro 50 deck, which is a digital format. It's a digital tape. It's a pretty high quality, but it's not HD, obviously. It's still 480. So We have that. And then we also go to a DVD recorder here also. There's other campuses that sometimes need a DVD, so it's easier just to go straight to DVD with our services and send that away. Now, the other format we have is full HD. We go through this AJA HDIO, straight into the computer, straight onto hard drive, straight through. We use Final Cut Pro for our editing, so we go straight into that, and that captures everything in full 1080i HD quality.
What are some of the advantages to doing that type of capture rather than, say, going to an HD tape format?
Well, first of all, tapes are really expensive, the HD format tapes. I think for the Panasonic version, they run somewhere around $150 for a 60-minute tape, which is quite pricey if you ask me, where if you come into the computer, you can back it up to a hard drive somewhere or a server, and it's just stored on a hard drive where you can erase it and put more stuff on it. It's reusable.
Great. Well, Tim, let's go and check out the camera gear setup. We'll do that right when we get back from the break.
This episode is made possible in part by Cinemover, the versatile motion system for small cameras. Lightcraft Workshop, the perfect tools to create the perfect image. CPM Camera Rigs, your lightweight solution for caging the beast. Small HD, the world's smallest high-definition monitors.
All right, welcome back. Now, before we talk about the camera gear, let's talk a little bit about audio, Tim. I'm guessing that audio for a live production with instruments and so much stuff going on at the same time is a little different than just the traditional narrative with, you can add audio tracks later if you need to or score, but you're doing everything live here. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we do everything live. We have a 56-channel soundboard here. We probably are using 30 to 40 of those channels live on every service. We have lots of instruments, drums, keyboards, guitars, bass, singers, you name it, we have it. So we mix that all down into a 2-channel output, and that is sent back to the production room to go to tape or go straight onto the computer.
Now, probably a lot of the people watching this, they may have used a soundboard, may not. Most of them probably have used some sort of sound editing either in their computer or built into their NLE or whatever, where they've got all those different controls. But you have to do that live in person, and your soundboard has to control all that. So why don't you show us how that works on the soundboard?
All right. Well, here we have our soundboard. There are 56 individual channels. So what that means is there are 56 inputs into the soundboard. Each individual instrument goes to a separate channel, or each individual microphone goes to a separate particular channel. If you look at it, each channel is completely identical except for where the knobs are pointing. So if you're unfamiliar with a soundboard, all you would have to do is learn how to use this one channel, and now you know how to use the entire board. All of those channels feed in what is to the main outputs. And the main outputs feed the speakers and anything else that you hook up to it. We have here a rack of equipment. Each of these here is a 4-bank of what are called compressors. So that levels out your audio levels and makes them more consistent throughout. So what we do is we actually send a signal from the board through the compressors, and it goes through there before it goes back to our control room. So all our levels are controlled and at an even level before they get recorded. So when you're actually mixing on the soundboard here, each of these faders controls what is actually plugged into it. So if I'm mixing a band, I'll be controlling each instrument. I'll be listening and hearing to see, okay, are the drums too loud? Is the bass too loud? Maybe the guitarist is playing a solo, so you come down here, turn him up when the solo is going on, and that adjusts all the levels that are going through the speakers and through the outputs to the control room.
All right, Tim, now you got something special there you're going to tell us about. Before we get started, I want to ask you, I know that obviously for some of your productions you guys use DSLR video. A lot of our viewers use DSLR video. It's a very popular thing, small camera body, putting out some really great image quality. But that said, there's things that make up a broadcast camera. There's reasons that they're bigger like this. So why don't you tell us about that? What makes up a broadcast camera? Why are all these buttons and switches and everything necessary?
Well, everything on the camera is typically self-contained. So, you obviously have the lens out here, and then you have a little screen that flips out the side, so it's much like some of the small home video cameras these days. But it's a lot larger. This particular camera takes P2 cards for its media, so it's tapeless media. It's all hard disk recordable. You have all your adjustments for audio, for playback, selecting clips that you have already taken. It's all built in right here. And then you can just throw the camera up on your shoulder. Viewfinder's all there. You know, zoom in and out, away you go. Focus controls, everything are all built in right here.
So now, how do you guys connect this all to your board back there? It's not just a video signal, obviously you're controlling the camera.
Yep. Well, obviously you see this big wire hanging off the end here. This camera back actually goes into what is called a CCU. It's a camera control unit. So those are in the rack back there by where we looked at the engineering equipment. So everything that's plugged into the camera here, plugged into that, you can control the iris through that control, which plugs into the back of the camera right here. There's 2 communication wires that plug out of the camera. One's going in, one's going out, so it's communicating back and forth with that CCU back in the control room. There's also headset communication that is transferred through here. So it's very important for a multi-camera shoot that each cameraman knows what's going on, so they know when their camera's live and up on the screen or live going to the recorded media.
All right, Tim, so you're operating camera here, and you're on a tripod system, but this looks a little different than the tripod systems that I'm using for my filmmaking. So tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, this is actually a studio tripod. It's pneumatic, so it adjusts lightly when you adjust it. Well, it's supposed to, at least, if it's adjusted properly. So it's just a nice cushion of air to have the camera squish down onto. You tighten it down to where you want it, and away you go.
Now, we know that in the back they control the iris and stuff like that, but there's still things that the camera operator has to control out here, and that's what these controls are for.
Correct. On this side of the camera, we have our focus control. So you just turn the dial, and it actually operates the focus on the lens of the camera there.
Okay. And the zoom, is that control over there?
Yep, zoom is over here. It's all electronic on that end of things. So there's just a wire that plugs into the camera right up here, connects to this control unit here, and you can zoom the camera in and out.
I'm seeing you guys have a camera right next to it. So why would you have 2 cameras right next to each other? Are you getting the same shot?
Well, typically what we do is we have 1 camera wide and 1 camera tight from the same angle, so it doesn't jump from side to side when you're taking from camera to camera.
All right, so we've taken a look at the 3 cameras, your handheld, which kind of runs everywhere, and your 2 different. These are kind of your 2 and 3 main shots. You got any more cameras?
Yeah, we have our 4th camera, which is actually mounted on a jib. So let's go take a look at that.
Well, Tim, this is a bit bigger than my pocket jib at home.
Yeah, quite a bit.
And you got a lot more stuff hanging around from it. So why don't you tell us how this all works?
Well, what we got here is same camera body as all the rest of the cameras, same attachment on the back. It's just mounted on the platform here.
And what does this allow you to do? This looks like a big old contraption for moving the camera around.
Yeah, so this can actually spin 360 degrees all the way around. The camera actually moves back and forth on here, so you can have tilt on your camera, which is called Dutch roll. It moves up and down. You have all the same zoom controls and focus controls that you do on any of the other cameras.
So now, Tim, I'm used to using my jib from the camera end. I use the tripod head and all that kind of stuff on the camera end, but I'm guessing when this is several feet up in the air, that's not doable.
Yeah, that'd be very difficult. Actually, all the controls are down at the other end of the jib where you put the weights.
All right, so the controls here look kind of similar to what we had before, but I see there's a few things a little different.
Correct. It's a 2-handle system, just like those tripods. However, the things that are different is obviously you have the weights on the weighted end of the jib. We have 240 pounds on here to lift up that end of the camera. I mean, the camera is only about 20 some odd pounds, so just proportionately, just proportionately, you need to have this much weight down here to balance it all out properly. One of the big differences is the Dutch roll compared to what you have on the tripod mounted cameras. That is controlled by this little dial down here. You just spin it back and forth, and the camera moves side to side right along that rail. One of the other big differences is your pan and tilt control. Obviously, on a tripod mounted camera, you just lift up and down and turn side to side for your pan and tilt. On the jib, we need to use a joystick control. So if we turn this joystick left and right, up and down, it does the same thing as if you were actually moving the camera on a tripod. the difference here is when you move the camera on the tripod, you're moving the camera up and down physically and side to side physically.
So you have a lot more axes of movement that you need to be able to control over and have that accurately producing a great image.
Correct.
For like a tracking shot, obviously you would probably use the joystick and move the camera at the same shot time.
Yeah, when you're panning across something and you want to keep the main focal point centered, obviously you're going to be controlling the joystick and actually panning the entire camera body itself.
Great. Well, Tim, thanks for this great tour. I hope
Yeah,
that you guys, next time you're watching a live event, whether it be a church, rock concert, whatever it may be, you can see all these different pieces of equipment can come together and create a great live broadcast. So thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Want more Next Wave DV in your life? Make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube to be notified when the next episode airs. Visit our website for daily posts on the latest digital video news. Like us on Facebook to join the Next Wave DV community. And follow us on Twitter for behind-the-scenes news and pictures.